Welcome everyone. This is an auspicious day. The reason why it's an auspicious day is because today is the first public presentation Metod's doing.
Wow.
And one of the things about life is that when you are in the flow and synchronicity of what the universe does, people show up in your life. And from time to time, really extraordinary people show up in your life. So Metod was one of these people that showed up in our lives. And it was probably, I think a couple of years ago, if my memory serves me correctly. And how it worked was he found Sian through interest with Dolores Cannon. And one of the things is that he's one of these unusual people that has complete full recall of where he's come from, right through his life on the other planet, and then here. So listening to his story is going to be absolutely fascinating. And then the link between Sian, Dolores Cannon, and Metod is that what Dolores Cannon has been talking about in the books, which is the new earth, the old earth, the shift, and all the earth changes, all the things happening, basically lined up with everything he's been told. So he said, I gotta connect with this lady and these people. And so, one of his friends hunted Sian down, and that's how we got connected. And he would have never found Sian otherwise, because he's not on the internet. He doesn't have a smartphone. He's got one of these old flip phones that you can't buy anymore. The only way you can contact him is by text or phone. He lives an incredibly simple life, but extraordinary life. So, without ado, here is Metod.
Well, thank you for inviting me to start off with, okay, and all of our unseen guests. What would you like to hear?
Your story.
What would you like me to tell you, or what would you like to hear from me?
Start with your story,
My story?
where you came from.
Okay.
What life is like there, that sort of.
Oh, okay, fine, all right. I could talk for a month of Sundays without even stopping, but unfortunately I've got to leave about 3:30. Okay, so I'll make it quite short. Okay, I'm from a galaxy called Andromeda. Unlike the Milky Way, where this Earth is located, one of the outer spirals, backwoods, so to speak, if you look at it that way. The Andromeda galaxy is basically the same. It's on one of the outer spirals of Andromeda galaxy. The planet is called Eros. It's 3 times larger than the planet Earth. We have 2 huge moons, so it's never completely dark. One moon could fill a quarter of the sky if you sort of looked out, and the other one's just behind that. It never rains there. It's not mountainous. It is hilly. We have lots of big lakes, streams, and the planet is covered with a cloud, like a misty cloud, for half of the day. And all the plants and wildlife and everything that is watered all comes from underneath. It sort of comes up from the ground, from the earth, and it just waters everything and makes it nice and green and pristine and everything like that. I come from a 6-dimensional planet, okay, which means that our bodies are very light. Before I came here, I was 1,500 years old, but I used around about 20. Completely white when I stripped down out of my clothing. Okay. I have 2 sisters. I have a mother. And my father actually he's the ruler of the planet. We have a governmental system, but it's not like anything that we have on this planet, which is chaotic at the moment, as you know. We have 120 in government, and all these elders or people that looked after various areas of the planet, they come together. Our buildings are dome-shaped, round and dome-shaped. We do have palaces and things like that with beautiful red marble and all that. We trade with other planets, and a planet that we get all the nice red marble from is called Ram, which is not that far away. So we have ships, you know, like not the ones that go on water, but we have spaceships. They're not slick and built for speed, but they don't have to be. So they're basically quite large and rectangular type of boxes which transports materials and other things like that. And that's where we get our produce from time to time, and also our minerals and other things that we need. Everybody is healthy. There is no sickness. There is no rich and poor. Everybody doesn't want for anything. There's a lot of love, and it's basically ruled with love. So everything is nice and peaceful. We do have enemies, however, but we have these invisible shields that come up from time to time. Okay, when the enemies are closer, the universes are it's a dangerous place when you think about it. It's not all starry and heavenly and everything like that. There's a lot of things that go on in the outer reaches of the universes and so on. So there's always ones that want to invade and take over some, you know, for mineral reasons and so on. But we do trade, not with money or anything, we trade with technology. So when we go out to get for example, our marbles, okay, which are beautiful red marble, we go and trade our technology to better and get the people that are there evolved, so they evolve in a much better and a faster rate, and then in return we have the produce from them, like minerals and other things that we actually need that are not found on the planet Eros. My name is Metod, and that means blessings from God. Whether I've actually used all the blessings from God during my stay on this planet, that's another thing. I'm like you. I'm no different than any of you, except that I have this memory of where I've actually come from. So at the age of 1500 years of age, the youth of about 20, my father told me, you have to go and learn some lessons. And also to report back, because one day you're going to sort of take over from me, and you need to know everything that life has to offer and different problems and other things that has to be talked about and fixed, and you know. So he said to me, okay. He said, you're the one that has to go. My sisters said, no, I wanted to go. The other one, that they were sort of having a bit of a tussle between one another because they wanted to go. I mean, being stuck on a planet, I guess, and you know, with nothing to do except enjoy yourself and other things, they wanted to go as well. But he said, no, my son Metod, he's going to go, and that's it. So he actually already picked a place for me on Earth. He picked the family that I was going to be born into at an exact time. So I went over to we have what you call a transportation chamber, which is half the size of this room. In one corner they've got dials and other things there. It's very, very clean. The people that operate this, which is only a couple of them, they're dressed in white suits. And I went over to this door, said goodbye to my parents and my sister, and I stepped through which was half the size of like an ordinary door, but it was curved at the top. And when the dial come up for me to go through this door, it was like a membrane. I think you might have seen this in some of the TV programs that are on, which is like a Stargate thing, this sort of shimmers and all that. Then I thought to myself, wow, this is interesting. So I took off my robe and I stepped through. Few seconds, I was into my earthly mother's womb. The baby, the fetus, was already there, ready to be born. Okay, and as soon as my spirit entered into my mother's womb, she went into labour. And I can remember so distinctly. I was I wasn't used to this. I was constricting. What's all this? And so I started to sort of wriggle out and said, I've got to get out of this, I don't like this. And I noticed that behind me, there was another person. Somebody else. I said, what's all this? So I made my way out through the birth canal, and this lady in a calico thing there, quite portly and all that, sort of pulled me out, hung me upside down and then started smacking me. I said, what on earth is going on here? Now I've been bashed to death here, what's going on here? I'm a prince, for crying out loud. How can you do this to me? Anyway, I started crying and hollering and all that, and of course, naturally not being able to speak, okay, in those days, back on the 4th of July, 1940, in a little town called Primsko in Slovenia. Before I left Eros, my father told me all of the things that are actually going to happen before I'm going to return home. Okay? Told me about the World War. He told me all about the other things that are going to happen during the thing there. And I said to him before I left, I said, how long am I going to be gone? He said, 75 years. I said, okay. On Eros, that's nothing. On Earth, as I found out, it's quite a long time. Because there is no time there, so to speak. We're constricted to a 24-hour day, 7 days a week, months, years, and so on there, so it gets pretty tedious. You have to work for a living, and you have to sort of battle through everyday things, and so it's quite it's quite strenuous, especially for a young baby, which I didn't have to worry about at the time because I was told that I'm going to be well taken care of, born into a very spiritual family, and whenever I needed anything, I was always going to be looked after. It doesn't matter whether I was going to be sick or whatever my needs were, apart from the fact that I had to actually learn lessons about what it's like to be, for example, during the Second World War, we were in 3 concentration camps, nothing to eat, terrible things that went on. I saw people hacked to death, shot, whatever it is. Everything is, everything was all upside down, and that was quite traumatic for me. I did actually, in one of the camps, that was the last one before I actually put us on a train to take us to the gas chambers. I'm not Jewish, by the way, but there were other people that actually went to gas chambers and all that, apart from the Jewish population. And the reason they got us into those concentration camps because my father here on earth was a freedom fighter, and in order for them to actually get to him, they went through the family, and of course they took us in order for us to for my mother to try and tell him where he was and so on there. Of course she didn't know, so they had nothing to do, but nevertheless they took us. And I can remember in one of the camps, it was during the summer months, and there was a pear tree out near the fence with barbed wire and everything like that, and they had overhanging branches, and the pears were just underformed. They were just little, little ones like that. And because we were so hungry, 1 cup of black coffee with a bread roll cut into 4, that's all we got. Just enough. You were starving, but just enough to, just enough to sort of keep you going. There was always carts there with dead bodies piled up and so on there, where they carted people away, because they succumbed to, to illnesses and starvation and what have you. So my sister, she was 7 years older than me on Earth, and I was about 2.5. So she picked me up. She says, "Metod," she said, "if I pick you up on there, this branch there," she says, "can you climb up there and just throw some of these little pears down for me?" I said, "Okay." So she picked me up. I was only very light, not much body weight at all, because I was skinny anyway as a baby. So it took me up, and I was up there, and I was picking out all these pears and throwing them down. He said, "Get some more, get some more." I put them down. And all of a sudden, there was a railway track not that far away from there, maybe just over past the fence down there, as you can see. And this train was coming. And in those days, they had those locomotives, made a lot of smoke, and And I sort of got frightened a little bit then, and I fell. And I fell down on top of this coils of barbed wire, and I hung there by my thigh. Okay, even my puny little body wasn't strong enough to sort of take my weight, and a great big chunk of my flesh came out of my thigh, and I fell down to the ground. It didn't bleed or anything like that, but I could look up, and there was this hunk of flesh hanging up on this barbed wire. And I thought to myself, wow, this is interesting. So my sister picked me up, rushed me into the barracks there, and they had this old guy there. He had, I guess he wasn't a medic, but he had a few little tools like pliers and things like that. So he had a look at it, and he said, "Oh, that'll be okay." He said, "I'll fix that." So he got a pair of forks, and with his pliers took off 2 of those prongs out of the fork. He had a bit of a file and sharpened both ends there, and then he bent them like a little U-bolt, like one of those staple things there. He took 2 of those. He said, "Okay," he said, "this is going to hurt a little bit, but you're a big man, so it's like, you'll be okay." So he got the pliers there, and he went, and then he got them, pushed them together. And I said, "Wow!" And then he got the other one the other way, it was like a cross, and he pushed that in and pulled them together. And he said, "That's it. No bandage or anything like that." So my mother, dresses in those days, they had a few petticoats and all that, so she ripped off the bandage around there, put it around there, and he said, "You'll be right now, that's it. No medicines, no painkillers, no nothing." But I didn't feel any pain. That was the thing about it. I did not feel any pain. And that's a memory that I have, and I have evidence of that there. If I, took my dax off, you're going to be able to see the scar. So the thing is this, that it was very, very vivid. Everything that I experienced is very, 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 very vivid. So eventually we made ourselves, there was a raid when they put us in these cattle trucks to take us to the gas chambers. And it was in the middle of winter, and the sirens came on, so the train stopped, and all of the people got herded off the train, and they were there with their machine guns and everything like that. And because it was snowing so very heavy, my mother said, "This is their chance now." So we actually ran and made our way through the snow and crawled underneath a pine tree. Now the pine trees, if you sort of go underneath, there's like a little teepee underneath there. There's no snow, because the snow falls all around and sort of makes like a little igloo type of thing. So we crawled underneath that, and we were thinking, okay, now what about our tracks? But it was snowing so heavy, because it sort of went on for about half an hour or so or more. And by the time the guards started to round up the people, a lot of them wanted to escape, and we heard machine gun fire and yelling and whatever. So there was a lot of bloodshed there as well. After about an hour or 2, when the train pulled out, we were still there. Oh, by the way, the soldiers did go past and pushed their bayonets into other areas and all that there, and we could hear them, so we kept very quiet. And after they were gone, we crawled out of that little smoke place and made our way into Austria. We stayed in farms, people put us up on farms. Nobody wanted war. You know, it was just that stupid, you know, German regime that sort of caused it all and everything. But anyway, so we made our way into a place called Friesach in Österreich. Still no dad, okay, and a farmer took us in and he put us into this, like a lean-to from a 3-story building. And it was a lean-to where maybe they kept some tools and other things like that. But we found out that it was a septic system there, like 3 stories high, so all the dirt went down into this big pit, and it smelled like you wouldn't believe, because it hadn't had thick boards. So we stayed there, and somehow or other my mother found, the war was over then, my mother went and somehow or other found my father, and so he came over there, and that's where we started from after the war. He got a job as a tanner, okay, tanning hides for leather and what have you, and they looked after us very well. So back in 1950 or just before then, he said, this is no good, we've got to make a new life for ourselves. So he said, now we can either go to Africa or we can go to Australia. And I'll put our names down for immigration. And we talked about it, and he said, okay. He said, we'll go to Australia. And it came through very quickly. We had to take train trips into a place called Klagenfurt, okay, and we went to the authorities there, and eventually we got the okay to, you know, to come to Australia. So we made our way to Bremerhaven, which was a boat waiting for us there. And it was called Skaugum. I forget whether it was Skaugum 2 or 3, but it was a boat called Skaugum. And it was a troop carrier at one stage. After the war, they converted into migration ships. And so we sailed into Fremantle. And we got off the Fremantle wharf down there. And they met us with bananas and oranges, and I didn't know what a banana and orange was, because I mean, at that stage, you know, there was nothing to eat. The good thing was is that my mother was a herbalist and to do with herbs and so on. So she went into the woods and picked up all sorts of herbs and all that, and I think that's what sort of got us through and sort of kept us, you know, relatively sick-free. And so they gave us just a banana, and I thought, oh, that's it. I said, what do I do with this, Dad? And he said, eat it with the skin on. I said, okay. And he said, no, you peel it. I said, okay. And I said, and what's this ball? Orange, that's a pomerantia. He said, that's a pomerantia. I said, okay. So it didn't bounce. Okay. You see how naive you are when you come out of a situation where you're half starving to death. You're always hiding from the authorities and all that there. You're there trying to keep alive. And then when you come to a country that has other things that you haven't seen before, naturally you're curious and you don't know what to do with them. And this was the case. So I quickly ran. I bit into this orange, by the way, with the skin on. And of course the juice went up into my eye. And I thought, wow. That's another thing I didn't know. It stings, you know. And I said, is it okay to eat? And he says, yeah, of course. But he said, you've got to peel it. I thought, okay. Anyway, we started off there. And he went and got a job in West Australian Government Railways. We lived in tents for a while before one of the houses became available. That was up in Ballajou, in the Wheatbelt area. By the way, I read in the Sunday Times that the little school that I actually went to is actually closed down now. They only had 5 pupils there, which is sad. It was, and that's where we started from. And then eventually he got enough money together, and he met one of the people that he knew on the boat, which was out in Wanneroo area, and he bought himself a property. So he bought 10 acres of land in Kingsway Road in Wanneroo. And of course by that time we were sort of growing up and getting to be the teenage ones. We went through bushfires, we lived in Humpties and things like that, as you do when you're trying to make a new life. And of course, by the time we got into teenage years and all that, hey, what does a good-looking young fellow do when he notices the girls? Of course, he sort of wants to go and party and dates and things like that, and so that's what we did. So there was 3 of us there, 3 good mates, and we went to parties and all that there. So at the age of 20, I met this party girl, and things didn't happen in a good way. It was a shotgun wedding, and I put up with living 18 years of, so to speak, hell. Fathered 4 daughters. They're okay, by the way. After that, I wasn't interested, you know, in having a partner for a long time. And then after that, I went into the building trade and things like that. But the thing happened, you see, I went to school 5th grade primary. That's all. That's all my schooling, 5th grade primary. And I can remember my first job at 15 years of age. I went to S.W. Hart and Company, which is the solar panels that they build these days. In those days, they were down here in West Perth, in Newcastle Street. And I wanted to become a sheet metal worker. So they got me a job as a sheet metal worker, and within a few weeks I was doing exactly the same things that the qualified sheet metal workers were doing, because I really enjoyed it. And I asked for an apprenticeship, and they said, no. He says, you're a WOG, you don't need to have an apprenticeship, we don't like the likes of you around anyway. He said, you're good at your work, but we're not going to give you an apprenticeship. I said, okay, if that's the way that you feel about it, I'll look for something else. So I looked for something else. I did with John R. Saunders, or Gaines it was called at that time. It was in the corner of Murray Street and William Street. And John R. Saunders was in Wellington Street, and they were sort of combined, and I sort of learnt the rag trade there for about 4 years. And as a young fellow, you know, I sort of went through that. And by the time I sort of turned, you know, 18, 19, my mate said, come on, let's go over to the eastern states and have a bit of a look around. I said, well, okay, fine. So we went with them. We came back again. That's where I met this party girl that became my wife, fathered 4 daughters, went through, she never wanted to stop. One house, not big enough. Get another house, bigger. Another house, bigger. So whatever I did, it was never satisfactory. Always wanting more and more and more. Very good business, started off caravan building. Had my own company with a friend of mine. We employed 10 people, got nominated Printers of the Year award twice. Went out of that, managed a section of the caravan company for the people that we're contracting to. They promised me a stake in the company. That never eventuated, because I found out that the directors of that there actually fleeced the company out of, you know, $450,000 each. So they got jailed. I was, you know, there again. I was on my own. So I went into doing gardening and all that, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years. Wasn't, for me, it wasn't anything that I wanted to do, because I couldn't use my mind. I wanted to use my mind about things. So I got out of that and I went into the building trade, and that was good. We built architecturally designed homes and all that there. I was a silent partner. That lasted about 5 years. We accumulated a fair bit of property and everything like that, and all of a sudden things fell apart. I was out there slogging my backside off while the partner was in the office, you know, not doing his thing. So the company went bankrupt, and of course I lost everything. And so I said to my accountant, what now? He said, well, you're very clever. Why don't you go up north, go to the mines, I said, what am I going to do up in the mines? He said, you can do anything you put your mind to. And I said, yeah, true, but I said, I don't, how do you get in there? So she gave me a couple of addresses. Within a fortnight, I was on a plane. I went to the mines up in the Pilbara, and then eventually finished up in Bow River Diamond Mine, which is about 25 k's away from the Argyle Diamond Mine. And I was relief manager for the camp there, about 1,500 people. And during my stay there, in my spare time, I built a little 9-hole golf course around the area, all by myself. I discovered the baobab tree with the beautiful nuts growing in there, and I went to Kununurra a few times and I saw all the carvings on that. I said, well, I can do that too. So I went and got myself, I started carving these baobab nuts, and it finished up just on a part-time basis. I had 10 outlets right throughout Australia. Beautiful flora and fauna in tree type of carving, some very small ones to very large ones. And they basically went around all over the world. And then my manageress, she wanted to, manage that. I said, fine. And then her marriage fell apart, and she couldn't chase up all the, all the accounts and everything like that. And I thought, well, this is only a part-time thing there. I'll just let it go. So I did. And then I went into other things like thermal technology, sheet metal work again, and so on there, with really having no clue about anything as far as job accreditation is concerned. But I always managed within a few months to, to be in charge, or, to have more knowledge than some of the other ones that had, arm length of qualifications and all that. They actually came to me to ask how things were done and so on. So I thought, very interesting. And then I got to retirement age, and long way back then, while I was at the mines, I actually met my my partner that I'm with today, nearly 30 years. And so we hooked up, and life hasn't been blissful, as you would want to be blissful, but we had our ups and downs, and we still do from time to time. But we know one another, so that's good. In the meantime, a lot of things happened as far as spiritual things are concerned. When I was 8 years of age in Friesach, we were still hungry, so there were some cherries growing over this creek, and they had this great big log running through. And my twin sister said to me, oh, by the way, I have nothing in common with her whatsoever. She hasn't got a spiritual bone in her body, or she hasn't been switched on. And me, I was completely different. I saw auras. I didn't need lights at night, because all the tree auras and everything actually lit up wherever I was going anyway, which was very strange to my mother and father, because they said, oh, look at all these burning bushes and things like that. And he said, what are you talking about? Because they were all auras. Everything living and even non-living has auras to a certain extent. Anyway, he wanted to have some cherries, so I said, okay, I'll go over there. Picked up some cherries, walked across, we had some cherries, and he said, oh, I want some more. So he stood up, my little brother, and he went and started walking across this log, and it was quite shaky. The stream was about 3 meters deep, very fast flowing, because down the other end they had presses for apple juices and things like that was run by this mill, and the water wheel that was sort of turning. And halfway across there he fell over, went straight into the stream. And I could see his blonde hair and blue eyes going out there, flowing down there. And I don't know how, I sort of very quickly ran down in front of him on the path, and then walked, didn't know how to swim, I was about 8 years old, walked down into the stream on the bottom, and as he went past, grabbed him by the hand and backpedaled and dragged him out there and put him up on the bank. He was coughing and spluttering and all that. It was impossible for anybody to have done that. All I could think of is, I was looked after. This is what I could do. I was being looked after. When there was some other things that happened, which is, is a long story. When we were in Kingsway Road, I was about 16 and a half years of age. I went and helped out on this piggery, a pig farm across there, and the owner said, look. They called me Mike then because nobody could pronounce Metod, so I said, listen, I don't want Mick, Dick and everything else like that, just give me a name and it's okay. So they came up with Mike, and I said, well, okay, that'll be Mike. So he said, listen, I said, I'm going to Tamman, one of my friends died, do the gristing of the wheat, big 5-ton Ferguson tractor, huge tyres, and electric start. She says, whatever you do, never, always climb up, make sure it's out of gear, press the button, come down the highway. 16 and a half year old, hey, I know everything, of course. Had my lunch, without going around the proper way of doing it. I went and sort of half climbed up on this great big wheel in there, put my hand over it and pressed the button. Boom. Concrete floor, big railway streepers hankered down and all that, the gristing thing there and all that. Started to come up, it was belt driven, started to move forward, pinned both my feet underneath the wheel, and it just started to go. Went over and over and over, and as it sort of reached around here, the tractor was already facing upwards. The front wheels were right up there. The belt mangled everything like that. Tore the sleeper out of the ground and shoved it up underneath the sump, and it broke through that. And that's the only way that the tractor would stop, because it the engine conked out, obviously, right? But while it was doing that, it was grinding. The wheels were still spinning, and it was grinding and grinding and grinding, and I thought to myself, wow, if I don't really do something about this while I'm underneath this heavy thing, it's going to run over my head and that'll be the end of me. I don't want this to go. So I leant over onto one side there, and it just managed to pass over me about here, right from there, right through there. And I looked up at this thing there was smoke and oil. Everything was mangled up. I stood up, ran down the hill, got on my bike. I said, no, I've got to check to see whether this is right or wrong. So I ran back up again, had a look at the mess, ran back down the hill again, got on my bike, about a quarter of a mile away. There was another farmer, and he knew me, and he said, oh, hi, what are you doing here? I said, I said, can you come with me? I had a bit of an accident with Parkinson's tractor. He said, what did you do? What did you do? So I quickly explained it to him, and as I was explaining this to him, his face went white like Tim's shirt over there, completely white. And he said, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. He said, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm fine. Tell me again what happened. I said, okay, I'll tell you again what happened. He said, can you piddle? Well, that's a funny question. Why would you want to ask me that? He says, can you pass water? Can you piddle? I said, I guess so. He said, go behind the shed and see if you can. So I went behind the shed, had a piddle, came back, and he says, yep, everything's fine. Threw my bike on the back of his ute, drove up, stopped down the bottom of the gate. We both walked up there. Had a look at the mess. He said, what? Tell me again what happened. I said, well, that's what happened. And you're okay? I said, yeah. Okay. So he said, okay, hop in, I'll take you home. There's nothing we can do about it. Now, by the time we did all this, I was starting to feel a numbness going over my legs. And I could hardly get up on, he had an F-150 Ford Ute with a sort of sideboard where you can step up there before you can get into the cab. And I could hardly get up there. And he says, "You okay?" And he said, "Oh, I pulled myself up there. Yeah, I'm fine, tough, you know." He said, "I think I better take you down to the doctors." So there was a doctor by the name of Dr. Pascos, which was down on the corner of Royal Street and Monterey Road at that time. And so he went down there, flat stack, breaking all the speed rules. They didn't have that many of those days. No traffic lights and policemen around. So by the time I got there, I had no feelings from here down. Had my jeans on and everything like that. He said, "Okay, let's get out." I said, "I can't." He said, "What do you mean you can't?" I said, "I have no feelings from now, I can't move." He said, "Oh." So he was in a panic. So he came around my side there, threw me out like soldiers do when they, you know, try to get people out of a jam. And he was yelling out. He said, "Quick, this young man's had an accident, tractor ran over him." So he went straight through into the surgery, laid me down on top of this, you know, at the surgery. And he said, "Okay," he said, "what happened?" I said, "I had an accident with a tractor, ran over me." He said, "Okay," he said, "let's have a look." So unbuttoned my jeans and all that there, pulled it down there, and he nearly fainted. The doctor nearly fainted. He said, "What?" And that's the first time I was black and blue. The darkest parts were where the big treads sort of came. I think it was, hang on, this one, that one, that one, yeah, that one, okay? And the other parts were all just dark blue. He said, "What happened?" So I explained it to him. He said, "No," he said, it's impossible." He said, "You should not be here, you should be dead." I said, "No." I said, "Well, I'm here." He said, "Are you in pain?" I said, "No." He said, "You got to go to hospital, I get an ambulance, I said, "No." He said, "But," he said, it's impossible for you to, you know, to still be alive. You have to, you know." I said, "No." I said, "I just want to go home." He said, "But you can't go home." I said, "I want to go home. I know my right to go home." He said, "Well, what about the pain?" I said, "Well, I have no pain, so what's your point?" So eventually, after arguing with him for about 10 minutes or so, and he said, "Okay." On the way out, he gave me a packet of painkillers. I guess that's what they were, because I never took any. So he put me back in there and he drove me home, and I could still see my mother as the ute pulled up. And I could see it on her face. And he said, "What's the matter?" I said, I'll be fine, I'll be fine." So he took me out there, laid me down in my room on my bed, and my mother came in. After he left, my mother came in. He said, "What happened to your son?" I said, "Well," he said, "I had this, you know, I really feel sorry for Parkinson's tractor, the grist is all gone and everything like that." I really don't know what he's going to say. So she had a look, you know, my injuries. So she broke down completely. I said, "Listen, Mum, everything is going to be okay." So I said, "Go and make me a cup of tea." So she went away. By the way, we weren't in one house, we were like little sort of shacks type thing. So she went down to the kitchen area, brought back a cup of tea. While she was gone, the whole room went white. I thought, now what? And all these spiritual elders, and they're just sort of in a circle, they all appeared. And they were sort of laughing in a way. "Huh, young Prince of Eros, look, 16 years of age. Look what he's doing to himself. He's really not learning his lessons properly. Wow." I said, "Now what?" And they were having a discussion. I said, "Well," I said, "you can't go back yet." His father told him he's got to be 75 years of age before he goes back. Or around about that, he hasn't learned any lessons yet. But he's learned a big one here. But, so we got, he said, "Okay. Fine, we'll fix all that." Mother brought back there. Gave me the tea. I said, "Don't worry, everything's fine." I was running around 2 weeks later. Not a bit of anything, except I have a bone here which sticks out a little bit more than this one. But as far as my legs and bruises and everything concerned, nothing whatsoever. And I liked running. So I ran the mile in 4.5 minutes without any training or anything like that. So I completely cleared up. And the only thing that I can think of is that, and then I can, you see what's happened is that over periods of years, it was always confirmed to me where I'm from, who I am, just to sort of keep me, just for me to know, what I'm going through and what lessons I'm learning. And there was many, many other things, but that was one of the major things that sort of happened. I got blown out to sea on a surfboard because I was with the Surf Life Saving Club, and I was somewhere near Rottnest, equivalent to, going out. And they picked me up, and brought me back, smacked my hand, put 50 pence or whatever it is back into the, kitty for the Surf Life Saving Club. So all these other things happened. And then, when I was 24 years of age, still married, lived in Curran up in one of the state housing that, that sort of we got into. And I said, okay, he said, one of the guys said to me, let's go up northwest Cape, and they're building the communication station up there for the Yanks. I said, okay. I said, good money. And like I told you, my wife always wanted more and more and more, so I said, well, okay. I said, what are we going to do here? He said, oh, we'll go up there as pipe fitters. A pipe fitter? He said, you wouldn't know the first thing about pipes and, and tees and elbows and stopcocks and everything else that goes with that. You don't even know how to weld. I said, well, you want to be a pipe fitter? Yeah, it's simple, he said. It's simple. Just screw a few things together and everything's right, I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, I don't want to go up there as a pipe fitter, but if you really want to go, I'll ask my wife if I can actually go, and I'll be your offsider, like a trade assistant. Okay, put in the applications. Wow, 2 weeks later, got the tickets. Fly up there. So we flew up there, and it was like a Wild West town up in Exmouth. Landed at Learmont, went in there, and there's a big American superintendent, Herman Trent was his name, smoking his pipe and his cigars. And he said, okay fellas, he said, line up. When I call your name out, stand forward. I'm going to go through each. I'm going to pick these you guys up, 14 of us, and we'll test you to see how much you know. Blueprint drawings and everything like that, mechanical things and so on. And I didn't know anything about it because my name came up. I was the 14th to pick. I said, hello, what am I going to do now? It's either I say, I'm sorry, I'm not a pipe fitter. I want to be a trades assistant. But I thought to myself, yeah, and if I don't say that, at least I got a job for 2 weeks anyway. Because every day he called these people out. So, true enough, you picked not my side, the other side. So I had 14 days of, so to speak, work. Every day they went in, they came out, and it was my turn. I said, okay, here we go. Okay, he said, what do you know? Okay. Now, what happened in the meantime? 3 days beforehand. This is it. There was this guy there. I always looked at him. He had a beautiful aura about him. He was like, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was so calm and loving and everything like that. As if though he was like a guardian angel of some sort, but he was a qualified pipe fitter and all that. He came up and he said, listen, he said, I know all about you. I said, what do you mean you know all about me? What do you know? What do you know about me? He said, I know all about you. He said, I want to help you. I said, help me with what? I mean, hey, I'm 24, 23 and a half, 24 years of age. What are you going to, how can you help me? I'm here, I'm already working on these things like the rest of them. I didn't know anything about it, but I was, you know, doing pipe work and everything in the workshop, just like anybody else that was there. And he said, I've got to help you because you want to keep your job. I want to help you. And I said, well, I don't really need any help. I said, okay. He said, change your mind. I said, well, you know. Next day he said, I really want to help you. I said, okay. So I thought to myself, well, got another day to go before Herman Trent calls me up, and that'll be the end of that. And I really liked what I was doing. I said, okay. How can you help me? He said, what you really need to do is meditate, lift your body out, go to the, take yourself to the planning room and learn all of the blueprints and the names and everything like that. I said, what are you talking? He said, astral travel. I said, oh, okay, never heard of that before. Astral travel, okay. So he told me what to do. I went to bed that night. Very quickly went into meditation mode and all that there. Then all of a sudden I found myself looking at myself. I said, oh, this is interesting. Floated up through the roof, looked around there, said, wow, great. And I noticed some oranges and some oranges that were left where the builders was quite high in the cavity. I said, well, am I dreaming? I said, sunk back down again into my body. I said, oh, this is interesting. So I said, wow, try it again. Straight away. No training, it's just straight away. Oh, wow, this is interesting. Got another look around there. Still saw those oranges there on the, right up 3 meters high. Okay, I said, I must be dreaming. So I got this crate, and I've got to check this out. Went up there, pulled myself up, and there they were, the oranges that were decomposing on top. Wow! I sort of got a bit of a fright, I said, wow, this is real, So I dropped down. And then I went into, meditated again, lifted off there, and I travelled to the planning room. The next day, I didn't have to remove the drawings. I could actually see through the drawings. Okay, and the lesson was very quick. The memory and everything was as if someone was talking to me and teaching me how to read these drawings and everything like that. So the next day, Herman Trent came up and he said, okay, Hovik, this is you're next. Okay. Opened up the big drawings. What's that? I said, that's that, and that. Now, if you've ever seen a blueprint, okay, on piping and everything like that, it's just like you got 100 chickens, put them into ink and drop them on a blotted paper. Unless you knew the bottom left-hand or right-hand corners and all that there with writing, you don't know whether upside down or not. That's how they looked to me anyway. So he said, okay, what's this? So I said, yeah, that's that and this and this. Look. Okay, what have we got here? I said, well, that's section A from the previous one over there, this section B, see, this one, that one. Okay. What's this? After about half a dozen plants, he said to me, got plenty of time. He said to me, why did I waste my time 14 days where I could have started with you, and then I didn't have to waste my time with all these other drongos that came in there. They didn't know one end from the other. I said, oh, thanks. He said, okay. He said, I'm going to make you, I'll put you in charge of all the pit work and all the mechanical fitting sections in all of the areas that we need to have this done. I said, I beg your pardon? He said, I'll put you in charge. And if you have any problems with any of the workers, you come to me and I'll sort them out. Wow, this is a new one. So I started off. Now this is where my spirituality really kicked in, my clairvoyancy and everything really clicked in. I could see through steel, I could see through walls, I could look at a person and read his mind before he even said anything. I could travel home where my wife was writing me a letter and I knew every little word, dot, T's, everything like that was in that letter when she sent it to me. I knew exactly what was happening at home, what she was up to, what the kids were up to, what the neighbours were up to and everything like that. Okay? And it was so heavy on me that I said, no, this is not right. No people are like this. How is it that I'm different? So he said, well, there's only one thing to do, is just persevere with it. I was up there for 15 months, did all the pipe work and everything like that. By the time we were finished, okay, Herman turned to me and said, go home, tell your wife that you're going to Hawaii with me. There's a big job for you. He says, once we finish that, he said, we can go to other places and all that. He said, I want you as my right-hand man. I said, what? Yeah, I don't think my wife's going to go with that. But anyway, it was something to think about. About 3 months beforehand, the next door neighbour where we were living in Karana, he was an alcoholic, very heavy man. Took 4 policemen to hold him down when he sort of got out of control. And he came over one night. His wife Thelma was always in trouble with him, so she sort of kicked him out because he was drunk and boisterous. So he came over to our house, and my wife was just about ready to go to bed, so I was in the night, and there was a knock on the door, and there he was standing there. God, his name just can't forget his name for a minute. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I said, hi love, he said, Thelma kicked me out, can I come in for a cup of tea? He said, well, it's a bit late. He said, never mind. He said, we'll go in. So I went in, and he grabbed hold of her, put his arms around her and threw her down on the couch. And we had, see, this is all confirmation. And we had polished floorboards and wallpaper on the walls, and he pushed her down on the couch wanting to rape her, and the couch actually slid across the floorboards and gouged at the ends of the gouged 2 holes into the wallpaper and broke one of the rungs underneath the couch. Anyway, with her screams and everything like that, the kids woke up and so on, and so Thelma came over and all that there, so he left. And I saw all this, like I'm seeing all of you here, the most minute detail. So I said, okay. And then she wrote me a letter. And she was telling me lies in the letter, because I asked her, is everything okay? And she says, yes, everything's okay, blah, blah, blah. So I thought to myself, okay. So I asked Herman Trent if I could go home, sort out a family problem. So he said, okay, go, take as long as you like. Went down there without telling her that I'm coming home, knocked on the door. He said, what are you doing here? I said, oh, look, I'm down here because things are going on and you didn't tell me the right things in the letter. I want to know what's going on. So she said, what do you mean? I said, no. I said, no. Next door, he came over there, wanted to rape you. I said, did you call the police and everything? No, everything's okay and all that there, He said, but I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, okay, if you don't want to tell me, I said, I'm going to tell you what happened. So I explained to her exactly what happened, and she went white like them switch. I don't know why I'm referring to you, Tim. And she said to me, who are you? What's happening to you? Who are you? I said, I'm the same as what I was before I left to go up there. I said, but I've had some spiritual experiences. He says, but this is impossible. He said, why? I said, well, I'm sorry. He said, you know, the last thing I want you to do is lie to me in your letters, because I can, I know all about these things, while they're happening or even before they're happening, So I said, oh. And then our, marriage didn't go very well after that. Anyway, there were kids on the floor. She tried to cover them up. She tried to cover up the wall thing there. I went over to the couch and upset her and broken and all that there. And it was all confirmation of the fact that, hey, what I was experiencing 1,500 kilometres away or more was actually true. So I thought, wow, this is interesting. When I came back, okay, we got the guy jailed, okay, for a little while. Took 4 policemen to hold him down. It was a real trooper, that one. But I had no ill feelings about it. I mean, I didn't have any animosity against anybody. I said, live and let live, forgiveness and so on, okay, even at that time. But things were so heavy. I felt like as if I was holding the whole world on my shoulders. I thought, I didn't come to this planet to be like this. And again, I got down onto my knees and I said, please, I don't want to have these powers anymore. He said, I can't handle it. I'm not here for that. I can't handle it. The same elder, same guy. I said, I want this taken away from me, please. Well, Prince of Eros, he said, the world needs you here. You can be of great benefit to the people. But I said, I don't want this. I said, it's too much for me to handle. My father told me, I learned some lessons, report back, and when I'm of the age to come home, I'm going to come home. But this is too much for me. He said, well, you can be like Christ-like and help a lot of people in their spiritual awakening and so on. I said, but really don't really want that. Could you please take it away from me? So after a little bit of discussion and wrangling around and so on, okay, so be it. We'd take those things away from you, those gifts away from you. As if that great big earth ball was lifted off my shoulders, and I felt so light. I said, oh, thank you. And that was it. So for quite a while afterwards, I didn't have any type of experiences for a couple of years or so. But then, you see, things started to come back again, little bit by little bit, little bit by little bit, little bit by little bit. So I went through all these experiences that were coming up, walking along the street, avoiding people that didn't have the right aura and the right energy, crossing over the road. I couldn't handle crowds or anything like that because I could feel there. I could go to the shopping centre and I saw all the heaviness in people because they wanted to balance their budgets and all that there. From time to time I even stepped in and paid for some of the groceries because people couldn't afford to buy them and so on there, and so on. So it started again, it sort of started again. Then I thought to myself, okay. I went and checked out all of the religions that were around, Catholics, Protestants, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Christadelphians, you name them. I've spoken to the bishops and the higher priests and so on there. And I found out that all of them had a little bit of the truth, but all of them had a lot of non-truths. So I thought to myself, no, this is no good. Because I can remember back when I was still going to school in Wanneroo, doing my last 5th grade in primary school at age 14. a priest, a Catholic priest. I went to St. Anthony's School in Monterey, and a priest came in, and he was always looking after the, he always went to the young, Yugoslav and Italian little girls, pretty little ones. And he always picked somebody up there and took it down to the, where he was living. And I had a cellar underneath there. And we were playing football one day, and we went in, and the football went over there, and I was sort of the furthest out, and I ran there, and this football went right down into the cellar, and the cellar doors were open. I said, I'm not supposed to be here, but sneaked down there. And as I was getting further down the steps there, I could hear all this giggling and carrying on there. And I said, what's going on here? Well, needless to say, I don't have to tell you that. You can come to your own conclusions. And I thought, okay, from now on, I am not going to go and be bellboy at the altar and ring bells and do the incense and all this and all that, and and learn about catechisms and what have you and this and all that there. I said, no more, that's it. I said, these people are teaching me to be godlike and everything like that. Look what they're doing, so that's not right. That was right back then, okay? And as you know today, institutions, religious institutions, all that, molestation of children, everything like that, and it's all coming to the surface. Now it's not even that there, it's going through the sports fraternities and things like that. And it's even worse today because of drug, alcohol and everything like that. So everything is just, it's all mixed up. Anyway, so I thought to myself, okay. So I went and joined a meditation group. By the way, I was doing meditation all the time. I'm in meditation now. Okay, I'm in meditation 24/7, so to speak. Okay, I'm sort of never out of it. I'm talking to you, but at the other side of things, there I'm in sort of meditation now. So I joined this group, and I thought, oh, everything's fine, and that's where I really sort of got into, really wanting to do meditation, and it sort of helped me a lot. And then things started to come up again, I'm getting closer to the time that I'm going to go home. I remember all the things my father told me on Eros, what is going to transpire and happen, and so on, and things were starting to happen. So I thought to myself, wow, this is getting pretty serious, and that was quite a few years back. And I thought, wow, it's really starting to happen. We are actually living in the last days. We are actually in the shift from 3D to fifth dimension. It's like a dimensional shift. And I thought, wow. And how long is this going to last? And I thought to myself, well, it's cranking up all the time. You hear all about these things that are around in the world today. Look, what I'm saying, in one way, it's good not to know about these things. On the other way, I don't want you to be an ostrich and having your head stuck in the sand and not knowing what's going on around you, okay? Because that is important. These are all signs of what we're going to be faced with in a very, very short period of time, okay? And so I couldn't help it. So Sian came to my rescue, and she said, okay, have a regression. And I said, well, what's the point? I already know all these things. What else can you tell me, So we went and had a regression. And I came up with two other lives that I've left. One a little boy, and the other one, a cavalier type of person back in the 1600s. So they didn't last very long. I got run through with a sword, and one with a spear and the other one with a sword, so that was it. But I did travel back to meet my father and my mother and my sisters, and of course we asked the question. Metod wants to know where we are in a stream of time. You promised him that he's going to be home when he's 75. I'm 76 now. Hey, the time's gone. Why am I still here? My father laughed. He said, this is our time and your time's completely different, son, so to speak. But it won't be long now. And I said, well, how long? From now, it was a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, right? From now, a few years, maximum 5 years, maximum. And I thought to myself, wow, so I've got to still stick around for another, 2020 or so. I thought to myself, well, okay, stuck it out for so long, I might as well stick it out for the rest. But you see what's happened, okay, is that when my father said now, and the next few years, so to speak, okay, that means it could happen anytime. And so, during my meditation period and so on there, and going through there, and since then I haven't been able to sleep really well. I've just been bombarded by spiritual, information and everything. I wake up in the morning and wow, my head is spinning, but I'm refreshed, And it's telling me what I really need to do. One is to start talking to people about what is going to happen and help them to switch on. Okay. Secondly, to let them know how really very close we are to the shift and the things that are going to happen. And of course, thirdly, not to panic, be grounded, because when everything starts to fall around you in chaotic terms and so on, and other material things that are going to happen to this earth, okay, with tremendous loss of lives and so on there, it's going to be very, very difficult to handle mentally. So you've got to be grounded, okay, and always know that you're going to be safe. And there's ways of doing that, okay? So how can I, the most important thing, forgiveness and love. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about thought. Your thinking, okay, is an element, okay? Whatever you think in your mind, whether it's good or bad or otherwise, that thought stays there forever. Goes out into the universe. If it's worth anything, goes to the Akashic records and it stays there. Okay? And God doesn't not judge anybody. You actually judge yourself. Because when your time is up, you actually go and read through those records in your life and everything of what will actually happen. And then you're going to be placed in an area suitable for that period of time that you spent on earth, whether it's in anywhere in the universe or universes, okay, or whatever level, okay? Now, so thought is very important, okay? Coupled with thought is love. Someone asked me, says, do you believe in God? I said, everything is God. There is nothing else except God, and God is all there is. Okay? Remember that. Everything is God. God is all there is. That is God. 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 Everything that you see around you is God. Okay? Why I'm saying this is that because unconditional love is the catalyst, okay, for all these things that you see around you. That is creation. The endless universes that we have, the endless... you pick up a grain of sand, one grain of sand, go down to the beach, pick up a grain of sand. That grain of sand represents the earth. It would be not even, you couldn't even comprehend in a million years how many grains of sand there are on this planet. Okay. So it's vast. There's just no, you can't explain that. There are an infinite number of universes, infinite number of galaxies. planets. It's just dimensions. Okay? And the only thing, okay, that you really need to remember while you're here is guard your thoughts. Don't hold any grudges with your worst enemies. Always send them love and forgiveness. Love and forgiveness for them that did things wrong, and love and forgiveness for yourself that you might have done wrong to somebody else. Okay? Most important. That is your saving grace. You cannot save another person by saying, oh, it's time to go now, come on, take my hand, we'll go. No, it's up to them, it's choices, you see. Each person is here for a reason. Free will. You can do whatever you like. Dance on your head, strip down to that thing there. Put body art all over yourself, put piercings all over your body and things like that. It doesn't matter. The thing is this, that it is your choice. Now, with that, okay, let me put it here. There is no such thing as the wrong, choice. Okay? You think about something, okay? There's no right and wrong. But there are always consequences, right? Okay, the consequences are, fine, I'm a good fellow, right, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Hey, I'm still here, I'm not perfect, I still have to learn. What are the things that I need to do to sort of get myself away from all the really bad choices, so to speak? But there is no bad choices. All the choices that you make are the right choices, but there are always consequences. Okay, so we learn from that. We learn from these things. That's why we're here. We learn, and the good thing is that most of you have been switched on. Okay, but at the end, when the time comes, are you still going to be switched on? In the meantime, are you still going to help people? Okay? You don't have to sit in front of people like I'm sitting today, which, by the way, is a privilege. Okay? You can be where you are and just be, but radiate that love and that forgiveness. Sit there in your front room, looking at the street, and just say, love and forgiveness. Everything is God, remember? It's alive. Love your chair that you're sitting in. Look after it and it'll serve you well. You get in a rage and you pick it up and you smash it. It's not going to be that good, is it? Okay? So, love and forgiveness. Peace. The world is full of hatred, full of wars. The governments are corrupt right down to the last minuscule thing. That includes councils. There is always someone in there that is against the laws that were set up. And you know that yourself anyway. You want things done, things like that. It just takes forever, and there's so much red tape about this, and this one has this idea, that one idea, and so on. They never come to a conclusion. They want to stop wars. They're sitting around conference tables talking about millions and millions of people that are starving, that are displaced, that are, children that, no one's listening. But all they're doing is they're drinking their waters, having their meals, and talking about nothing. Nothing's been accomplished, okay? And this is the type of thing that is actually happening even more so. A lot of the countries are actually financially strapped now too, okay, with all the things that are going on there. So don't be surprised if there's going to be a recession and your money is going to be worthless. You can throw it in the street because nobody will want it. I'm not saying that's going to be that drastic, but the point is that you've got to be prepared for these things, okay? Because when everything is falling apart right around you and things are happening and the heavens are going to open up and you're going to have spaceships and, you know, hundreds of them coming down to, you know, they're going to materialize and people are going to see them. And all the things that they've been taught, okay, through their religious beliefs and, you know, cultures and all that, there is all going to go out through the window. Because none of them, you see that, he says you must be crazy, okay? But that was going to happen because there's going to be this dimensional shift. 5.2 billion people are going to die, lose their physical lives. The tectonic plates are going to move. England is going to be underwater. Japan will disappear underwater. Most of the islands and all that are going to disappear. Parts of Western Australia, a third of that is going to go underwater. Okay? A lot of the other places are going to come above and rise. The Lemurian continent that sank all those many years ago, that is going to actually resurface again. Atlantis is not going to come up again because that Middle East, where all the wars are and everything like that, is going to be mountains of ice. And then there's going to be survivors. Okay? And the survivors are going to be the ones that have switched on. The ones that are holding the fort, so to speak. The ones that are showing love and kindness and helping people spiritually. Not only materially, physically, spiritually. Because they are actually going to come. You know, one of the largest, you know one of the largest ships that are out there? 10 miles long, 2 miles wide, 70 stories high. Think about that. 10 miles long, 2 miles wide, and 70 stories high. Incredible. How can a thing like that float through space? Can you imagine the thousands and thousands of crafts they have on there for when they come down there to take and lift people off, to take them to safe havens and other places and all that. And it's not going to be pretty. But the thing is this, okay, and I don't want to frighten you in that way. When the finality happens, it's going to be very, very quick. Okay, it's like 1 minute I see you, the next minute I don't see you. Because I'm in another dimension, or you're in another dimension. But those that are left behind and those that are going to lose their physical lives, okay, they will know. They will know. That's the whole. They will know for future reincarnations. Now, reincarnations will not happen for a long, long time after this shift. Okay, have to be a lot of souls will have to rest in various places of existence or wherever they're going to be placed. Not only that, which I forgot to tell you, people always talk about eternal life. That is God-given anyway. You live forever. All of you. Doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you have eternal life. Because the real life is lived in the spirit. Okay? The real life is lived in the spirit. You know, so when people die these days, then you have funerals and things like that on there. It's, oh, you've lost their memories and all that. Actually, it should be reversed the other way. It should be a happy occasion because they've actually gone to a better place. Okay? But that's easy to say simply because it hasn't sort of, you know, doesn't happen to your family or your loved ones and all that. And naturally we feel sorrow, you know. But when you think about it, you know, eternal life, it's God-given. You don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to belong to any institution. You don't have to belong to a culture, a religious organization. It's there. It's being given to you for free. And it's lived in the spirit. That's your real home. You're only here to learn lessons. to learn lessons so you can become better spiritually equipped. And a lot of you must already know where you're from anyway. At least I hope that's right, what I'm saying, because I don't know. I don't see any bad auras. All the auras I see are good. But that in itself doesn't mean anything. Here. Okay? Here. And here. Yeah. So, how do we meditate? How do we get there? How can we, how can we be sure that we're going to do the right thing, that we're actually going to survive and go forward and all that there? How do we do this? How do we go about doing this? Meditation. Find a nice place where it's quiet. Center yourself here. Yeah, that's your third eye, so to speak. And of course, meditation. You know what meditation means. Meditation means listening. Prayer means talking. So when you pray, you're actually talking to God. When you're meditating, you're actually listening to God. Okay? And it takes some time with some people to actually get to the stage where they're comfortable. But you've got to start somewhere, even if it's for 2 or 3 seconds to start off with. Next time you do it, 6 seconds. Next time you do it, a minute. Before you know it, you'll be able to quieten your mind and be at peace for a few minutes. And later on, you can be at peace for hours. I know people that are actually meditating half of their day and most of the day. But there is one thing, having said that, you've heard the saying, faith without works is dead. Right? Not much good meditating and saying, okay, I'm okay, Jack, but forget about everything else. Doesn't stop there. You have to pass that on to your neighbour, people in the street and all that there. We're talking about something that has never ever happened for a couple of million years or more, this shift. Now the Bible has many occasions in there where it actually speaks where, the whole group of people and all that have actually gone into another dimension and all that. This is different. The whole planet is going to transcend. There'll be 2 Earths, a new Earth and the old one. The old Earth is going to have some of the survivors, and they're going to find a very hard time with it, okay? Because they're actually going to live out their lives. 70 years and 10. With special mindedness, you might live to be 80. That's the general, lifespan. Today, with medical science and everything progressing and all that there, feed you with chemical things and other things there, you can live to be 100, but then you're like a vegetable, aren't you? Okay? So they say, we live longer now. Of course we live longer. Because we're full of dope and medicines and things like that, we got there. But having said that, it's a progress towards how the human race has evolved. From clubs and caves and things like that originally, okay, to where we are today. But you see, that's happened before. Happened with Atlantis, and it happened with Lemuria. They were more advanced. Those two continents were more advanced than what we are today, actually, because a lot of them actually managed to sort of go to other galaxies and other planets and all that. They were so far advanced. And having said that too, we are on the surface of this planet. We're not the only ones that live here. There are great cities underneath this Earth. Okay? And they're very advanced as well. Okay? And they're going to come up. So, what can I tell you, you know? I could go on talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, you know, as it becomes there. And you can see I didn't have a script or anything like that to train. It just sort of comes to me, you know. And there's a lot more. It's, you know, I've got to hit it on the head in about 10 minutes or so. So, is there any questions?
How will we tell the difference or discern the difference when spaceships come between the US, which has probably already developed spaceships, and the real alien, outside, not alien, but extraterrestrial spaceships? Will we know the difference between whether it's a US covert operation or a outside?
The US spaceships will not do anything for you. Okay? The ones that are going to come to lift you off to safe places, okay, that are going to be the real McCoys from other galaxies and all that. The Confederation of Planets, the Council Confederation of Planets and all that has got all that in hand. Those ships that are actually built by the US government and all that, they're a completely different thing altogether. Okay? So there won't be any of those that are going to come and lift you off to a safe place. Because the majority of those, okay, are not going to be here with us anymore. 5.2 plus billion people are going to lose their lives. Governments are not going to be operational anymore. They will disappear. Cities will go under the water. There won't be anything that they're going to be able to do and all that. Apart from the fact that these ships that are going to come from the galaxies and other than there, they are motorized by thought and crystals. I can travel from here to Eros, and I can travel from here to other universes and all that there, because thought is instantaneous. But I can't do that unless I have unconditional love. Those two, love is the catalyst for everything to happen. Okay, so those spaceships that you're talking about that might come from government places and all that there, no, forget about it. It's not going to happen.
So the false flag is not going to happen.
Sorry?
You know, we're talking about the false flag. You know, like pretending to be ETs, you know, the fleet, but apparently it's not going to happen, you're saying. Because some people think that the Americans are going to do a false flag and confuse people.
Well, I mean, they're confusing people already because they're telling them that they're going to fix everything, so stick with us. Okay? Yeah. They're going to fix everything. Rubbish. Yeah. You know? They just want the power, and they just want to keep the people, you know, under restraint, so to speak. Okay? So they'll come up with any type of story. So there is no, when you start hearing that the governments of the world are actually going to start to, you know, to do something by lifting people off to safe havens and all that there, it's not going to happen. Okay? The real extraterrestrials, the real saviors, okay, are going to come from other dimensions. Okay? And you will know anyway. Okay? Don't forget, and I'd hate to say this, and it's in the Bible, if you like, okay? You can be in the field, mother, father, son, daughter, whatever it is. One will be taken, the other one is going to be left behind, and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay? And it's all to do with the switch. And that is why it's so important for you, or for anybody that is interested in doing this, is to talk to people. Nice, slowly in a way. Or just be there and just send out love and forgiveness. Okay, because even that energy presence can actually trigger something in a person when it's time. Don't forget, 5.2 billion people off. I think the census now is 7.4 billion people on this planet. Okay, just the latest. Now, not all of those surviving ones, okay, some of those are still going to stay on the old Earth to finish off their lifespan. But that's going to be very, very difficult for them. Okay? So not all of the survivors are going to be taken away to safe havens, to other planets and other dimensions and so on. Okay? Only those that have actually reached 44 cycles per second. Okay? And vibration. Okay? Plus. So the next thing is, how do you reach that? How do you reach those cycles per second? Well, the answer is simple. Okay? That's what's going. That's what does it. Okay? Love and forgiveness. Peace, love and forgiveness. Because that is the energy that is actually the frequency and the vibrations raise that energy up to those levels. Okay?
We have certain people say, oh, you should meditate at a certain time of the day.
No,
But
not
I
true.
find that I wake up some mornings like at 2 or 3 in the morning and go, oh my God, now's the time peak. And I'll go out and sit on a rock and whatever time.
Yeah, look, yeah.
If the moment's right, should you follow that through?
Look, it is good to do it at a certain time because that actually gives you... time is very important. I mean, if you make a time and a commitment at a certain time, it's a good idea to keep to that. Okay? Now, you can lay down and meditate. You can sit up and meditate. You can meditate in a bus. You don't have to sit there in a lotus position doing okay? Because when you see a person doing that, you know that there's a little bit, it's not quite right. Okay? All right? So you can meditate anywhere. Your intentions are the most important. Okay? Most of my meditation, when I really meditate earnestly, okay, is when I go to bed at night. Okay? And that's why I get bombarded with all this information and I can hardly sleep. When I wake up, the first thing I say, good morning, lovely day, send you love and forgiveness, be happy. Okay, and then it puts me in like this meditative mode. I can be doing things, but it's there. And the interesting thing about this, well, at least with me, is that right through my working career, don't forget, 5th grade primary school, I've held positions that you would need arm-long lengths of, what do you call them?
Degree.
Certificates and degrees and all that. Okay? But the thing is this, that I didn't want to be a professor and teach in a university somewhere. I didn't want to be a school teacher in there. No, I wanted to learn different trades, do different things, and so on there. That motivated me. And the other thing that you have to keep in mind, those of you that are still working and employed, be happy in your work. Never think that, oh, I've got to go and work. Work is a negative word. If you have to go to work, you're going to find it hard. Work is pleasurable. It's a learning experience. Can you think of how many good things you can do while you are at your place of employment, having a joyful time, having fun, learning new things, talking to people, and so on there. Work is a negative word. Shouldn't even be in the vocabulary. Because work means, you know, so you don't enjoy it. Enjoy what you're doing. Okay? It's enjoyment. And I've always looked at it all the time, and I've enjoyed it. Because every 6 months or so, whenever I went into a different employment, wanting to learn different things, I put my application in. My wife said to me, "Oh, how'd you go?" I said, "Oh, you're going to ring up at 5 o'clock and tell me, you know, welcome aboard, join the company." She says, "Oh, you must be joking." 5 o'clock comes, there's a phone call, she picks it up and she says, "Oh, it's for you." I said, "Oh, okay. Welcome aboard, when can you start?" I said, "Tomorrow morning, what time would you like me to be?" Even after I told them that I don't know anything about the work. You understand? Okay? Everything is possible. Everything is possible.
What is the purpose of these spaceships coming in? Are they to help us move on, or do they want to take the planet over? Or what's the purpose?
No. No. They're here. They are here to take you to a safe place because they care about you. Okay? Okay? Now, if you are ready to go to another dimension, they will take you to another dimension, your home. Okay? They were going to take you to safe havens. Sometimes on other planets they have already prepared for many, many years now. Okay? Because the old Earth is going to go through a transformation. And it's going to take a long, long time before it actually settles down again. So after it settles down again and things like that, if it's your wish, you're going to be brought back again. Okay? Or, you know, taken to another dimension, another planet, wherever. They are not here to take over the planet. They're not interested in taking over the planet. These actually created the planet and everything on it. Jesus Christ didn't create the planet. Okay, like you read in the, in biblical books and, okay. There were myriads of helpers and all that. They came right throughout all the other, places, right throughout the universes there. And it took billions of years to achieve that. And eventually, okay, they thought, okay, we're going to put, we're going to get something there, we're going to get, man on this planet. Okay, do you know what they did? Man wasn't created out of dust from the ground. It stood up and he said, "Oh, look, we've got a good-looking Adam here. Now we're going to take a rib out of that, like you read in the Bible, and we're going to create Eve so she can be a companion." No. They used apes. Okay? IVF treatment and all that, bought from other places in the universe and all that. Okay? And it took one generation only for modern man to appear. Because apes today are 98% human. You can transfer blood and think that, but they controlled that in various confines, okay? And they looked after, they were nurturing, it was like a garden, they nurtured everything until such time. And they taught them right throughout the ages, they've actually taught them. They've given them information on how to build shelters and buildings and so on there. And so that's the way that man evolved, okay? But that a long time, because every time the earth regresses, it's pushed back into the, so to speak, Stone Age again. Okay? It's pushed back into the Stone Age again. That's why you have the Australian Aboriginals, okay, not progressed very far at all. Even though they say that they've been here for 40 years or 50 years or so, okay? But there's always evolution, okay? And now today you see a lot of Aboriginals, the indigenous people of this land, okay? Okay, doctors, lawyers, they've made their way up there, slowly progress to that. A lot of them, of course, aren't, you know, okay? And it's just the same with any other culture that's on the earth. Same with the American Indians, same with the African nations, same with the, Asian nations and all that, exactly the same. But when that happened, they actually regressed because there was no more information there. They didn't have any more technology left. They didn't, their memory was lost. Some of them actually carried that through. That's why you have, in various different cultures, ones that are still spiritually awake and know about things that happened before. Levitation. That's a lost art. You've heard about the Indian that goes on his little carpet there, goes and buys his ware, sits on there and levitates there, and there's the carpet floating around, to take him home to where he's come from. It's like a fairy tale story, a legend, but that's actually that is actually true, because people in those days, they were able to levitate, and there are a few people today that actually know how to levitate. Okay, so, and that's a thing that is going to happen in the future. Also, no more sports. There won't be any more competitive sports in the future. Okay, what's the point? Because you're going to be able to read their minds anyway. Okay? So it's not much good playing sports if I know what you're going to do. And you know what I'm going to do. Well, we might as well sit down here and enjoy our company rather than trying to, tussle with one another.
Okay. On the back of a horse.
Well, no more horse racing. Okay? And also, no more killing of animals. Everybody will be vegetarian. So, if you still are eating meat and all that, try and cut down on it a little bit. Okay? That's very important too, because, an animal knows when it's going to get slaughtered. Okay? Can you think of all the stress energy that animal has in its meat and everything like that? So what you're actually doing is you're actually eating stress from that animal. Okay? I'm not saying give up, what you're doing. All I'm saying is that try and cut down. Okay?
They're going to have assimilators where they actually assimilate the taste of meat for that meat.
Sorry?
Are they going to actually have assimilators where they'll actually assimilate the taste of meat, but it's not from a dead animal? No?
Well, you have tofu these days and all that, with all these other things that actually you can eat a tofu chicken that nearly tastes like a chicken. Okay, I'm vegetarian. I'm more vegan than vegetarian and all that there, and my wife makes beautiful dishes that's out of tofu and stuff.
To do, getting back to the centre of the earth where there's races in there.
Yes.
How did they get there, and are they connected to Pine Gap?
There is no connection to Pine Gap. These people that are underground actually stem from Lemuria and Atlantis. Okay? They knew before those continents sank that they had to do something and get out. And so they went underground. Okay? I must tell you, there are huge caverns under the ground, cities and everything, okay? And from time to time, yes, they do come to the surface, but it's not very well known that.
Do they look like us?
Yeah, they're much taller, much thinner, quite white, simply because there is, they have their own sun down there, but it's nothing to sort of give you a tan or anything like that. They have manufacturing down there. They have great big water resources, lakes and so on there, yes. But that is under turmoil as well, because of when the shifting of the tectonic plates occurs, okay, they will have to get out too. So they are actually going to come to the surface at the same time as they are going to when the UFOs come to pick us up.
Then when there's an earthquake, because there's an earth shift, so inside the earth they will be affected?
Yes, to a certain extent. It's not as if everything is going to collapse on top of them. Yes, that is actually going to happen later on. But don't forget, inside the earth, there are places inside the Earth that have existed for millions of years, and they are actually occupied by extraterrestrials. Okay, because they need that there to monitor the Earth and the things that are happening and so on there. But these are secret places that even the governments don't know anything about. Okay.
Are we going to go through 3 days of darkness, that kind of thing?
Possibly, yes. Things are always changing, but yes, possibly. There is things that where the Earth is going to stop spinning, which means that one part is going to be dark, the other one there, then it's going to start again. There is also talk about there's a great big comet that is going to go through there that is going to have the gravitational pull of the Earth, which is going to cause it to, to fall off its axis, but it's not going to crash on Earth. But as it spins away, it's actually going to try to take it with it, and it's going to sort of pull it, and that's when the Earth is, so to speak, going to fall over. Look, these are the scenarios that are put there, but nothing is written in concrete about those things. These are all things that could happen, will happen, no, but we don't know. The only thing is that it's important for us to, what I said, send out love.
What time frame are we looking at here?
Between now and the next 3 years. So we don't waste time. Pull your socks up, get to work. That's it.
My watch says 3 o'clock, you've still got half an hour?
No, my watch says about 10 past or so there, but anyway, we'll have to wind up in a minute.
Excuse me, Metod. Why now, and is there any relationship to the photon belt if such a photon belt exists? Is that causing elevated vibration rates to cause tectonic shift, or is that all fabricated information?
The tectonic shift is caused by the energies that are emitted from the population on this planet, which is dark matter, okay, and also new energies coming from space into the atmosphere. As a matter of fact, the new energies are actually preparing those that are going to survive. You are actually being bombarded by new energies, okay, and some of these new energies that have actually got an effect on you, okay? Could be ringing in the ears, could be sore joints, could be headaches, could be, all sorts of manner of things, thinking that, you've got to go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't know what's wrong with you, but he goes and puts you on medication anyway, which is no good for you to start off with, okay? So, but these are passing things, okay? And these are happening more and more to people on this planet, okay? Because the energies is changing. The atmospheric conditions are changing. There is other elements added to the atmospheric conditions now, okay? And all this is in preparation for the shift, okay? They're changing your body, internal body, your DNA, your thing. They're changing that so you can withstand, those things that are about to happen, and also helping you to sort of shift from this dimension to the next dimension. Okay? So,
do we need to prepare ourselves financially, for example,
no.
invest in gold or anything like that?
Why would you want to do that?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Well, it's no good. You're going to be throwing the stuff in the street and nobody's going to pick it up because they'll be too busy trying to save their lives. The monetary system is going to collapse, okay? Those few people that are controlling the financial situation on this planet, which aren't that many of them, the G20 or whatever you call them, these people that have got trillions and trillions of dollars to play with and everything like that, they think that these are the ones that are going to be okay. Wrong. They're the ones that are going to go down, okay? And any of those that are actually associated with those things, they're thinking that I've got a big nest egg and this is good for my retirement and everything like that. Well, I can live like a king or queen or whatever it is there. Hey, enjoy yourself now because that when that collapses, when the monetary situation collapses.
So basically, money is going to be pointless
Yes.
once after the shift.
Yes, you will not, after the shift you will not deal with money anymore. Completely new set of rules. Okay? Completely new.
What will the rules be?
What will the rules be?
How will we survive? By feeding ourselves with our own produce, or?
Yes, it'll be, yeah, well, I mean, everything's going to be renewed. It'll be something similar to, well, it'll be something similar to Eros, where I come from. We don't exchange money, we don't work with money and things like that. You know, I give you something, you give me something in return. It's like a bartering system, so to speak, but it's not, you know. The structure is completely different, okay? But nobody will want for anything. You're going to have a house to live in, whether it's a big one or a small one, it'll be up to you. But you're going to be just as equal as the other person that opted for a 3-bedroom house. Okay.
Are you talking about pole shift or a shift to a higher dimension?
Pole shift and a shift to higher dimension. Yes.
Is that one occasion, or is that two?
No, well, no. That's going to happen in conjunction with the dimensional shift.
And this pole shift.
The pole shift is going to happen to the old Earth. The old Earth is going to have the pole shift. For example, when you talk about pole shift, okay, the old Earth. Do you know where the hump on South America is? La Paz, where you call that hump? That is going to be the new. That is going to be the new pole, North Pole. Okay, so the old Earth is actually going to fall over, so to speak, turn on its side.
And is that suddenly? Is that suddenly? Because nothing on the surface will survive.
The whole lot will. Yes. No, it will survive. Okay, the whole thing will take within about an hour.
That means that the ocean water will flood practically everything.
There are going to be tidal waves 200 meters high. There are going to be earthquakes and great big gaps there where it swallows just cities and everything. The oceans are going to be different. Rivers are not going to flow where they're flowing now. A lot of the continents and a lot of the countries are going to go underwater, and some of them are going to come up. Okay, so there's going to be a tremendous amount of destruction. As a matter of fact, somebody told me once, and I don't know if it's right and all that, there will take, on the old Earth, will take 1,800 months, okay, to bury all the dead bodies that are still floating around.
5 billion people.
Well, a lot of them are going to be swallowed down into chasms and all that and sort of disappear. But they're going to live. There's nothing wrong with that. They are still going to live. You have eternal life, remember? 5.5 billion people are still going to have eternal life. But where? What dimension or where? No, that's it. They're going to live forever. Eternal life is a God-given. It's a present from God. Okay?
What is exactly the point of those spaceships to save a limited number of people who have evolved sufficiently? What is the point of that? Because they also have eternal life, and they will go somewhere and start all over again anyway.
Do you know how big the universe is? Huh?
Sorry?
Do you know how large and the expanse of the universe is? Huh?
No.
You don't know?
No.
It goes on forever. It's infinity. Infinity, forever. There are so many planets out there and all that need to be inhabited and so on. There are so many dimensions that people live on and all that. Why wouldn't you want to? Why would you want to go and lose your physical life and then go and wait for so long in order for you to be reborn again? Where if you've actually come up spiritually to a vibrational state where you can actually go into another dimension and live on from that, and help out all the other dimensions and other planets and all that. Creation keeps on going all the time. It never stops. Okay? So it's entirely up to you. Okay? It's difficult to explain simply because the mind starts to boggle, you know, when you think about that. But the reason there's always survivors. There has been in Lemuria, They've gone to other places and other planets and dimensions, and they've gone underground. They're exactly the same thing happened in Atlantis. They went to other dimensions and other planets, and some of them went underground as well. So it just keeps on going. It never stops. Yes.
You said that on your planet Eros that you didn't have any ill health is that the state of mind?
Yes. 2. Okay? Yes. Okay? It's your thoughts, it's your thought process that makes you sick. Okay? It's your thought process that makes you sick. You don't need medical doctors and all that. I mean, we have healers today that you go there and people touch you and they heal you and so on there. All very well. After the shift, you won't need to have that. Simply because you're going to, you know, your vibrational rate is so high that you won't need to have somebody to heal you, because you're actually going to heal yourself. Well, by the way, too, yes?
Metod, you mentioned you have enemies at your home planet.
Sorry?
You had enemies at your home planet.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit more about those when you get a chance?
Well, actually, one that I can think of that when I was still there. Okay, there was a breach in the what do you call it? The membrane of the it's like a invisible shield that comes up there that keeps there, and if I could, I know the name of the the ones that wanted to go and break through, but they were more of a reptilian race. Okay, they weren't. No, they weren't. They didn't look like us. They were more scaly and the thing like that. More, something similar to, when you see the Star Wars films and all these, films that have sort of been pushed around those cinemas and all that there, all that. A lot of that is, seems quite real, in that way. And all I could say is, yes, some of these people actually look like that, Very highly advanced technologically wise, okay? And of course, naturally, if they can't... not everything out there is bliss, There's a lot of... because it's so vast and everything like that, people are, races are wanting to take over planets and do their own thing and all that, Sometimes for bad, sometimes for good, but it's, and that's how it is, The other thing that I need to say too, okay? Those of you that do healing, energy transference, okay, is very, very important. For example, if you get out of bed and you've got a headache and you feel miserable and things like that, and you've had a run-in with your partner, things don't go wrong, or something's troubling and all that there, forget about healing anybody. Okay? Because as soon as you're wanting to do that, the energy transference is going to go into that person. It's not going to do much good. Okay? So you need to be loving. You need to be fully alert to what you're doing and all that. It's always there to help people. That's why people that have got this gift to heal, they do this. But it has to be done with love and an open heart. But if you're not feeling up to it and you've got problems and stress and all that, don't do it, because you're actually passing those energies on to that person, and that is not going to do them any good. Okay? Now, having said that, healings, if it's done the proper way and a thing like that, sometimes they have an instantaneous success. Other times you need more than 1 or 2 or 3 visits and all that for that. But each time the healer really has to be responsible for what they're doing, because if they're not feeling right, don't do it, because that is counter-reactive, to that.
Is it part of the plan that the politicians are so corrupt? Is it part of the plan of our learning for the politicians to be so corrupt?
Yes.
What's it showing us?
What's it showing us?
Yeah.
It's showing us that these are These are dummies and they're not learning fast enough. Because it's gone to their head. They need power, and they need to have control over people, they need to have control over finances, they need to have control over wars and things like that. This is, you know, this has gone on for millennia. Okay? Same thing happens in Lemuria, same thing happens in Atlantis, and same thing happens on other planets and so on there. Okay? But life goes on.
Yeah.
So they're learning. Okay? It's going to hit them pretty hard. And they're not the ones that are going to go away and be lifted off to other places by, you know, by the Confederation of Planets, you know, to go somewhere else. Because what are they going to do when they get there?
Do the same.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry. I have to wrap it up.